All right, this is JP DeRaw, show number 123. And tonight, again, we got a topic that we have never covered before in the show. Tonight, I guess, is Neil Kremer. Did I say it right? Kremer. Okay, that sounded a little bit wrong. Dang it. And we're going to talk about commercial photography. We've talked about, wedding photography. We talked about infant photography. We talked about sports. We talked about lots of things, even Abandonscape a few weeks ago. But we've never covered commercial photography. And tonight, I guess, is going to talk about that. And Neil, I was looking through your site, and we could spend a whole show talking about landscape photography. You have such amazing landscape shots on your site that that could fill a whole show. Because I didn't pull a whole lot of them for the chat here tonight, so people can look at it. But you have some amazing work there too.
Thank you.
So what we want to talk about tonight is commercial photography. And let me find my notes here. First off, how did you get into commercial? And would you call yourself a commercial photographer? Before I say that, what would you call your photography? Kremer Johnson.
Right now, well, I shoot with a partner, Corey Johnson, and we own the company together, so it's two photographers. It started out about 4 years ago with me shooting landscapes. It progressed into wanting to turn it into a living, which you can't really do with landscapes these days. And I realized I had to start shooting people, so we started a small studio, and that just grew into a bigger and bigger studio. We started taking on brand clients, so we'd shoot directly for small regional companies, and that grew into a portfolio that allowed us to go out to advertising agencies and start selling our wares or our portfolio to big brands. So right now I'd call ourselves commercial advertising photographers.
Okay. So did you grow up in photography? Did you go to school to learn photography and not just photography, but the editing side? Because some of them I'm going to ask you about is some of the editing, because I know these aren't just shoot it and straight out of the camera.
Yeah, that doesn't happen anymore, the straight out of camera thing. There's people that do it and get away with it, but right. If you're going to be competitive, I don't see how that's really all that possible today, unless that's your look. And I believe there's a market for every look. But school, no, I'm from Rochester, New York, home of Kodak, so I grew up with photography in my face all the time, and we had a dark room in grade school, and I don't remember how to use it, but my background, believe it or not, started in finances in college, and I spent 20 years as a sales manager selling sporting goods and apparel. So photography is relatively new to me, and I have no schooling other than what I could find on the internet and books and calling photographers directly that I admire and asking them questions. So that's pretty much my background.
So business administration, or finance, was that your degree?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I definitely veered away from that. So.
Well, you say you veered away from it, but I imagine in the job you still need to have some of those skills. That it's not just the photography and the editing; it's some of the business sense too.
Yeah, I sold at a very high level. I sold to Target, Walmart, and some other major chains for a long time. So I understand how to put a deal together, and I think that's helped me quite a bit when understanding how to chase the money or finding where the money is, and the ability to pick up the phone and call a creative at a major brand with a plan. That's something that a lot of photographers, young photographers out of school, don't understand or have the confidence to do. So coming at it with that experience has definitely helped us.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, I imagine a lot of people look at commercial photography and think, wow, that sounds like the magical life. That's once you do that, you're set. But I look at it and think, holy crap, that I don't want to be a wedding photographer because of the stress and the everything involved in that. And I think that the only thing I can think of that's beyond that would be commercial photography stress wise. Because as bad as a bride and mother maybe to deal with, I imagine you have commercial clients who can be difficult and demanding also. Can you tell us a little bit about what it's like to be a commercial photographer?
It's rough. It's the most competitive thing I've ever done, in the sense that there are so many really good people. I mean, there's phenomenal photographers alive today, and we're all chasing the same business. And you can go months without getting a job, and then you could get one that pays for your whole year. But to get to that point, there's so much work involved. This is definitely the hardest sales job I've ever had. Just putting a portfolio together costs a lot of money. You can't do it yourself. You need a team. You need a producer. You need someone to find talent. You need a location manager. You need someone to take care of permits. You need someone to do storyboarding. You need someone to create the concepts. You need someone to help you light it. You need someone in post. And this is all done. You only have one image. Now you need 50 more to edit down to a 20-image portfolio that, by the way, all has to look the same. There has to be continuity in the tonality, in the color schemes, in the industries that you're shooting, and the subject matter. Otherwise, no one's going to hire you. They want to see that you could do the same thing over and over and that you've honed your craft. It can't be 20 different things, because they'll never hire you, because they won't know what they're going to get out of you. Saying all that, yeah, it's really difficult. It's not a glamorous life. I spend probably 3% of my time with a camera. The rest is all managing the business, getting business, and creating new ideas.
Now, to creating new ideas, are you shooting an idea and then trying to sell it, or is the customer coming to you and saying, "Here's what I'd like you to do"? So this is how it works. What you do is develop a look or a style. In an ad agency, we'll sell a campaign, a print campaign, to a brand. So let's say XYZ, big time ad agency, sells Coca-Cola a look. They said, this is what we want it to be. These are the storyboards, and this is the type of lighting we want. So let's say, okay, we sign off on that. Go find a photographer. So now they've got thousands of photographers to choose from, and they want to find the one that just does that one look only, nothing else. So if they choose you, that's great. They're going to ask me for a bid, which is very complicated. I just put one in with an ad agency today that was almost 80 pages. Wow.
Some of the bids take me a week to put together. It's a lot of work. And the tough part is you're usually one of 5 photographers bidding on that job. If you don't have a relationship with them, there's a pretty good chance that you're not going to get it. If you're the lowest bid, you're definitely not going to get it, unless there's no money and it's a new brand that says, hey, we only can do this on the cheap. But that doesn't happen often. If you're the highest, you're probably not going to get it, because somebody's going to say they're too expensive. So you want to come in right in the middle. But how do you know what the middle is?
Exactly.
You don't know what the other people are quoting. So it all comes from experience, which we're learning as we go, and it's very difficult. I got off track there. What were we talking about?
No, you're good. And see, that business degree is helping out. So we're talking about, does the client come to you with the idea, or do you go with the idea?
Right. So what they'll do is, it's funny. The first time I did this, I was shocked, because they send you what's called a deck, and what that is it's actually the images that they want to develop. They go in and grab stock footage, and someone in their company that's good in Photoshop composites everything together. They say, this is what we want it to look like. And my first thought was, well, there you go, you've got it.
What do you need me for?
Done. Well, you look at it, and it's all low-res stuff, kind of Frankenstein together. And you quickly realize that they need it done right. But they're literally asking you to create that. So from that, you have to say, okay, it's a shot of a lifeguard on a beach with a platypus in his lap. So I got to go find a platypus, figure out how to get it there, find a permit for it. I got to find a permit for the beach. I got to find the right clothes, so I need a stylist. I got to find hair and makeup. You put all this together, figure out how to light it, and that's your quote. And you price yourself for the day of photography. I have kind of like a day rate, And then on top of that, usage. So along with that deck or that group of photos that they want you to recreate, they're going to give you usage. Like the one I just quoted today was out of home, which means all advertising out of the home, so billboards, bus stops, mailbox, insignia, stuff like that. 5 cities in the U.S. So I have to figure out what that's worth to me. And they want it for, say, 6 months. And I also have to include in the bid if they want to extend that to a larger region or for a longer amount of time, I have to tell them how much that's going to cost. So this all comes into play, and that's where a lot of my time falls. A lot of photographers use agents to do all this for you, but we're not there yet, and we're not ready to give up 25% to have somebody do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
the pricing is something that a lot of photographers struggle with, and they're talking about how do I price this, this 30-minute or this 1 hour or even an 8-hour or 16-hour wedding. I mean, this is multiple levels of complexity above that. Did you say 8 or 80 page?
80.
80 page.
80. That's what I heard. Yeah.
80 page.
Yeah. It was a total of 16 shots, and there's a lot of legal verbiage that goes on each one too. So
so a lot of it is like boilerplate type stuff, where it's the same all the time.
Yeah, but you make some changes for each client. And sometimes they'll strike right through whole paragraphs before and make you sign off on it before they send you a purchase order. And typically that comes to things like if sometimes they want to be taken out of any liability. Mm-hmm. They want to put all the liability for anything that happens on my shoulders, on the photographer's shoulders. They want to be indemnified. So we'll fight back and forth about who ends up with the liability. But I would say out of the 80 pages, 35 to 40 are legal jargon. The rest are all facts and figures.
Wow. And that's, I don't know how you gain that experience, because it seems like you could really mess things up, either underbid and then somebody pick you and now you're going to lose money on the deal, or you just don't even get the bid because you didn't do it right, maybe came in way too high. I mean, that's not knowing what the other 4 guys are going to bid. Just, God, that's so difficult.
Well, there's a couple of clients I had, and this is where it becomes, you hear people talk about it being a relationship business. And all sales is a relationship business, unless you're selling used cars or something. Yeah. Once I start knowing these people and they keep coming to me for bids, I will say, look, are you using me for these bids? Are you using me to get a number so you could go get the photographer you really want to use? And now they'll tell me, yes, I want you to come in here. And I'm cool with that if I know they're going to give me a shot at something else later down the road. Mm-hmm. And I'll also ask the question, where's everybody else coming in? And first it's, has everyone else submitted bids? 2 of the 3. Okay, where are they? And if you have a good relationship, they'll tell you.
Yeah.
So now I've got a much better chance of putting numbers together that work.
Yeah.
For the future, right? That makes sense.
All about relationships and trust.
So that whole write-up, the interaction, the actual shoot, the actual editing afterwards seems like a very long and involved process. How many of these do you look to do a year?
If we could do 6, I'm really happy.
Okay.
If I can do 6 a year for the next 10 years, I'll retire happy.
Awesome. Now, is the client really demanding on time-wise? Do they say, hey, bids in by this date, shoot final product by this date, or are they fairly lenient on that?
No, it's all discussed in the deck, the information they give you, and then it's in my quote, very specific all times. Because in some cases we're using union people, so if I'm 10 hours over on a grip truck, I know that we've got to pay them, just like on a movie set, time and a half.
Right.
So it's all spelled out in the budget, and it's very clear when everything will be delivered, who's going to be delivering what, who's going to be doing the post. I like to do my own post, but I know there's people way better at it than me, so if they want to do it themselves, go ahead.
When do their posts, what do you mean?
Post production.
Oh, okay.
Photoshop.
Okay, so you do the shoot and then you hire somebody to do the Photoshop afterwards?
It depends. Again, that's something that's all negotiated in the contract or in the bid. A lot of times we'll just give them the raw images, and they'll send it out to a post-production house.
Okay.
They're using some of the best people in the world,
right,
which are way better than me. So.
No,
but there have been cases, and because ultimately I own the images.
I was just going to ask you. I was going to ask you that. So you own the image, not them afterwards.
Yeah, that all comes. No matter what, whoever presses the shutter owns the image, unless I sell you the rights. Back to usage. It's stated in the contract that we have together that you're allowed to. I'm allowing the client to use them for X amount of time, and I'm also telling them where they can use it. That is the license. So if they come to me with a product that they've hired someone to Photoshop. And I don't like it, I could say, you know what, I'm not happy with it. I'd like to take a crack at it and see what I can come up with. That happens sometimes.
Well, I guess ultimately that image has got your name on there, and if you don't like what they did with the picture, it could hurt your reputation.
Absolutely. Yeah. Most of the work we've done for ad agencies, we don't even show. And it's not like they're putting our name on it. You're never going to see a Coke commercial with the photographer's name on it. To be honest, we don't like most of what we've done. we really just show our personal work in our portfolio.
Okay, so I was going to ask you, looking at the stuff on your website, there seems to be, in a lot of them, a common feel to it, a style that you've developed. And I was wondering, how do you send these out and have different Photoshop people work on them and end up with similar styles across clients? I don't understand. But now, if these are more your personal portfolio building shots, that would make sense. I understand now, and I like that.
Everything on there I photoshopped myself.
I love the style, by the way.
Thanks. Yeah, style's tough. Some people love it, some people hate it.
Right.
To be honest, I'm ready to move on to something different. I don't know what yet, but I'm desperately looking for something new or trying to develop a new style.
Well, and that's one of my questions I had here is, in the commercial photography, I'd imagine, a lot of that is driven by marketing people, whatever the marketing campaign is going to be, and those styles change over time. How do you stay fresh and up with that? So when people are going to come and look at when they're looking at who they're going to hire, they're going to look at your work and say, yeah, he's somebody I want to hire. Are you having to constantly go out and shoot different things, or?
Yeah, Corey and I wrestle with that all the time. It's funny because, we're close to some creatives at ad agencies who always say things like, just shoot what you want, shoot where your heart is. God, that's such a load of crap. You
may be shooting landscape all the time then. Yeah,
and the bottom line is you have to present something that is marketable, that you're going to make a living at.
Exactly.
So, we do wrestle with that. And staying current for me means looking at everyone else's work and what they're doing. And unfortunately, I think, social media, particularly Instagram, has redefined the current styles. Everything has a lot of lens flare, has a vintage look to it, very natural, nothing staged. And that's becoming the predominant style. And, the question for someone like me is, do you chase that? I've decided not to. I don't really like that look. It's just not for me. So we're going to find something in between where we are now and kind of a more natural look. But we don't know what that is yet. But yeah, I don't think you could chase styles. I don't. You can't chase trends because that's all you're ever going to be, is someone who's behind the eight ball. I think you need to keep testing and creating your own look.
Right, because those trends are going to change, and if you don't change with them again, well, you're far behind again.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm looking at some of the images now that I'm streaming through here. How many of these are or composites. You know, obviously I'm saying that without you seeing what I'm talking about, but in general, you know, what's on your page there. How many of these are composites versus just the lighting and editing that you've done?
None of them are composites.
None of these are composites?
No, I'm kidding.
Wow.
Wow.
I'm kidding.
Okay. Let's go to have some questions then.
Well, I'm looking at I'm looking behind me. Some of those are really old. Looking behind you, the two girls on the pole.
Uh-huh.
That was just a weird shoot, but that's not a composite. They were actually there. We liked we used to. We're not doing it so much anymore, but we liked for more of a surreal, illustrated feel. So we do a lot of rim lighting, a lot of cross lighting to show depth in the shadows, and that's what you're seeing a lot. But obviously, anything with the old lady, the old blonde woman in it, is a composite.
She's awesome. Well, from the photos, she seems awesome. That a really good sport and really good sport in taking those photos.
Yeah, she's fun. That was the first series I ever did, and she's still bugs me to do more. She always wants to keep going.
Well, that's awesome. So, hey, you know, you've been doing this for a while now. Do you have like a favorite shoot you've done, a favorite client or favorite project?
Yeah, I do. Favorite project I ever did. I've always been an Eagles fan. We got a call from Southwest Airlines. Their in-flight magazine. I can't even remember the name of it, to be honest. And they wanted us to reshoot like a modernized version of the Hotel California album, the album cover. So we did some research, and the two guys who actually shot it were pretty drunk when they did it. They did it from scaffolding about 80 feet above Sunset Boulevard. And just, they were up there just kind of looking around. They weren't even thinking that shot. When they got back, I guess the Eagles, I think Glenn Fry saw it and said, "That's the shot right there, I want it." So that's where that came from. And knowing that story, we realized we had to be 60 to 80 feet above Sunset Boulevard, which is no easy task. So
and drunk.
We rented it. No, we weren't drunk. No, that I wasn't going to do.
60 and 80 feet and drunk don't go to good weather.
No.
But we were just to get permission from the hotel, the Beverly Hills Hotel, was a big deal because they haven't let anyone shoot on their premise in like 30 years. So it was a big deal that we were able to get out there.
Because they were afraid somebody's going to hang out there drunk.
Yeah, right. We thought about it, but so we found ourselves in a cherry picker. I think we ended up having to be 100 feet up because in all that time the vegetation had grown, the trees had grown. So shooting straight into the sun. So the sun fell directly behind the Beverly Hills Hotel. So we were up there just firing away with all the traffic, going below us, and it was just awesome. I mean, what a great experience. I'd say that's my favorite shoot so far. And then they let us in to shoot one of the bungalows, and this blew me away. $16,000 a night to stay there.
Wow.
And you or I, even if we had the money, couldn't get a room there because they're a year out with nothing but sheiks and VIPs. And I was disgusted by it.
Wow, that is crazy.
I know.
All right, so that's your favorite shoot. Do you have one that was like the most challenging? Yeah, they're all challenging. We had a scooter company come to us, a new scooter company, I think out of China. They came to us and said, "We need you to do this tomorrow. We want 6 shots. This is what we want, and we don't want to permit anything because it's not in the budget." So putting together a crew in one night and going guerrilla style, which I never like to do because you could get arrested. It's a recipe for disaster. Mm-hmm. And we hated doing it, but we got it done, and we gave them what they wanted. But now, is that scooter company a 3-wheel scooter or like a tricycle type looking thing?
It is.
Yeah.
I'm not mentioning names.
You're not going to be able to see what I'm showing, but I've got your webpage pulled up, and it's got a man sitting on like the front part of it by the steering wheel, and a lady in a bikini hanging off the back end.
That could be the one.
Yeah. I think there's more than one of the scooter, but that's the one I have pulled up right now.
Yeah, that was a terrible experience.
And it looks like it's at the beach. Is the scene there?
Yeah.
Or I guess that's a beach. I don't see water actually.
No, it's a beach.
Okay. All right, and it wouldn't be. I know people and would love to know this, and we talked about it some in the pre-show. Is the gear that you have to use for this, and often on here is talked about Sony. Tim Sony, I'm Nikon. We have Canon people on, and you had a great quote that I tweeted it out, or I put it out on Facebook and gave you credit for it as soon as we had the pre-show back then, and now I've forgotten it. But it was basically, you don't know what you shoot because it doesn't matter. Something to that extent. You shoot whatever you need to shoot to get the job done.
Yeah, honestly, it's the last thing we talk about. We only own 2 or 3 cameras. Our backup is a 5D Mark II with a bunch of lenses. But our main camera, we just bought a Nikon D810 that we love. I mean, we absolutely love it. And that's primarily what we use. But it depends on usage. If we're shooting something that's going to go to large print, let's say they're doing lenticulars for high res for an airport or something, we need to shoot medium format. So we'll rent a Phase 1 or a Hasselblad. It really doesn't matter as long as whatever camera gives us what we want, that's what we're going to use. Lighting is much more important to us than the camera. Mm-hmm. That said, we use whatever lights we need for the job. We own a whole bunch of Paul Buff Einsteins and Alien Bs. But if we need to shoot a lot faster, we'll get a ProPhoto D1 kit. Sometimes an agency will tell us they want us only to use ProPhoto, so we rent whatever it requires.
And you got to take all that into account when you're doing the bid on what kind of gear you have already versus what you're going to have to rent, that kind of stuff. And I imagine you also take into account how big the shoot's going to be and how many additional people you're going to need to be involved too, right?
Yeah, I talked about a quote being as big as 80 pages. It's all spelled out. Everyone, what their rate is, what their rate is for overtime, the camera. So, back to quoting, I could get myself in a lot of trouble by not asking those questions up front. So if they don't tell me where these are going and what kind of format they want, I might just put a Hasselblad in there, which is going to be $2,000 a day, and the other guy quoting, he quoted with a Canon 5D Mark III.
Yeah.
So we're not quoting apples to apples, but that guy's going to be less than me every time. So I have to make sure I answer or ask all those questions up front.
Right.
So now you're always including in your bids the rental of your equipment, so you're not using any of your own equipment then?
Yeah. Well, for years, photographers made a lot of money renting their own equipment to themselves. So you'll put it, and the way to look at it is this. Look, if you want to, if you want me to do this job, I got to rent an equipment. Who cares if I'm renting it for myself or from Sammy's camera? It doesn't matter to you. But they're becoming a little more savvy. Not only do they know the prices, but they're saying, hey, we're going to go to the rental location and get it for you. That way they can control costs. Mm-hmm. So we're seeing that more and more.
Okay. All right, guys out in chat, I know there's a 30-second or so delay, but if you had questions for Neil, I still have some here myself, but if you have questions for Neil, be sure to ask them there, and I'll bring them in. All right, I've lost myself in my questions.
You're bouncing all around on me.
All right, so, and this is going to be a bounce around question too. So now you've been in it for a while. if you had to do some of this stuff over again, is there any lessons learned? If somebody who's wanting to come in to this business, here's some things you need to think about maybe before you get in, and maybe it's not for you. We talked a lot about some of the stuff there that the demanding nature of it from the business side and from the production side. So that's one thing. But anything that somebody getting into this business should think about, and anything that you learned that if you had to do it over again, you'd do different.
Yeah, it's a good question. There's one thing that took me a while to understand is that's the importance of editing and shooting for a portfolio, not one image at a time. Like I said before, someone's going to hire you because you only do one thing. So you need to very quickly develop your style and only shoot in that style and learn to edit down to 20 to 30 images that represent your vision, because that's what someone's going to hire you for. And you might not have the latest and most interesting or the new Photoshop technique. It might not be the most eye-catching stuff, but as long as you have a clear vision that people see, you only need 15 to 20 customers. You only need 15 to 20 creative directors to believe in or buy into what you're doing, and you'll have a nice career. So what I would recommend is find that vision, hone that skill, and put it out there to anyone who will look at it, and you're going to get hired. You'll figure out the business end later. That's not really all that important.
Yeah, I imagine though, if you say you will get hired, you got to do something in the meantime to pay for rent and food.
That's
the building up of the client base. At some point in time, you hopefully have a little bit more standard, a little bit better flow of clients and money. But getting to that point sounds like it's going to take some time, unless you're just lucky.
Yeah, I've watched people do it right out of the gate, get hired and never look back. I've also seen really good photographers with great vision struggle for years. You need a backup. You do. I don't care if it's waiting tables or selling insurance. Yeah, you definitely need a backup. There's no doubt about it.
Okay. Mike Wren out in chat has a question. His question is, how is your time spent in bidding jobs and prep versus shooting and post-production?
Good question. There's a third component. Marketing, I would say, is literally 50% of my time, and that means developing the portfolio, planning shoots. There's 3 main websites that I use to market myself to creatives. That's Communication Arts, CA, Workbook, and Found Folios. That's where most of the creatives go. OneIsland.com is another one. So I would say half of my time is marketing. I also go out to people on LinkedIn that I'm lucky enough to accept my invitation, and I'll contact them directly with ideas. And that usually is like a VP of marketing or a creative director at a brand. So that's half my time. I would say 25% of my time is putting bids together. And that's literally just on the phone, finding answers to things like how much and how do I get a cop car to a location in Burbank for a 12-hour shoot, and how much would a producer cost for the day, putting it all on paper and communicating with the ad agency or the brand. So that's 25% of my time. The other 25% is shooting, planning the shoots, concepting. We do a lot of storyboarding. We're big on that. Everything starts with ideation, storyboard, plan, shoot, post.
Like a movie production almost.
There's no difference. There's really no difference at all. I think still is a little more difficult than a movie in the sense that a movie, at 30 frames per second times 2 hours, you've got that many images to tell your story. Or we get one. If we're lucky, it's a series where we get 3 to 5 images to tell a full story, a narrative story. So I think it's more difficult in that sense.
So for that one image, how long would you, let's say it is one image, how long would you be on site shooting on average? Is it a single day or is it a multi-day?
It depends. There's some things we've taken, some shots we've taken that have been full 2-day setups. This is the thing. You're shooting tethered. So I'm tethered usually to a 27-inch iMac, and the client is there 90% of the time. And whether they are happy with the first shot you took or not, they still have to justify their job and say, no, I don't like this. Yes,
Yep.
but they know in their head what they want. So you'll shoot until you get it right. And sometimes that takes 12 hours. Sometimes that takes 2 days. And it could be a matter, it could be something that has nothing to do with me. It could be 5 or 6 hours spent with the stylist getting props and set dressing correct, which is a little frustrating because it has nothing to do with me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it takes a long time.
I was just thinking about that.
Leading up to that, you're talking about weeks to prepare.
Oh, sure. Yep. All the bidding process, all that kind of stuff, all that work you had to do to get to the point to shoot. And one of the things you just talked about, just send for a lot of people, I think it would send a chill down their spine. Think about whatever you're shooting a wedding, let's say, and imagine the bride's mom sitting there watching them stream across her laptop saying, nope. The stress that would add to the job, which is what's happening to you.
I shot a wedding, and it felt like that.
Well, and that's basically what's happening. The client is sitting there looking at it, and hopefully they're understanding, if they've been doing this a while, it's not going to be the first shot. It's going to take a little while. But that's I don't know, maybe you're used to it now. But that just seems so stressful to have somebody sitting there, critiquing as you shoot.
It was at first, but what you quickly realize is that you're building. First of all, you're there for them. You're giving them their vision. You're putting their vision on, well, not paper, but on digital now. And you realize that it's a collaboration. It's your lighting, it's your style. But in order to get to what's going to sell the product, you need to collaborate with the creative director, and ultimately you get a much better result from everybody putting their heads together, if that makes sense.
Was that hard at all to? A lot of creatives don't like necessarily to have that input from the other side. They want, here's what I'm going to shoot, and you're going to like it. Not everybody, but there's some people like that, and not just creatives. It could be people like me.
Right.
You may not like the feedback, but it sounds like in this commercial photography, that's a critical part, is that interaction between you and the client. Was it difficult at all at first to have them on site with you and learn that and realize that their feedback was important to the process? And would you rather them not even be there in some cases?
No, I'd rather them be there. That way I know they're getting what they want, and I don't have to go back and redo it on my dime. So, like I said, I started doing this, shooting landscapes all by myself, which was kind of lonely. And now I don't think I'd want to do it without a team around me, and having everybody give their input. Because ultimately it just leads to much more dynamic and robust work.
Yeah, and you mentioned on social media, one of the places you talked about was LinkedIn. Do you, commercial photography is a little bit different than, senior portraits or family portraits or stuff like that, where a lot of business may be driven from things like Facebook or even Pinterest or Instagram. Is as far as social media goes, is LinkedIn one of the primary places for you, or is there any other, are there any of the other primary ones that are of any value?
We're on as much social media as we can be. Anything that drives traffic of, the amateur photographer, which is all of it today. All of social media has nothing but a lot of photographers on it. We're on there to have a presence to increase our SEO. That by far is the most important thing to us. We are very aware that we're never going to get a customer through Facebook or Google Plus or what else is there?
Instagram
Pinterest
or something like that.
Instagram, yeah. the creative directors, those people don't have time to look at those sites. And if they did, they wouldn't be looking for a photographer. So we know that. But there might be a case where a new creative director at a brand might say, I'm looking for a photographer. I'm going to go to Google. I want to be the first guy to come up.
Right.
And that's why I use those sites. Like I said before, there are sites that are specifically for advertising photographers that we have to pay to be on, actually pay a lot to be on. But that's where we really get the bang for our buck. LinkedIn is a different story, though. LinkedIn, I can, for free, find the guy who's in charge of buying photography at McDonald's and get to him directly and have a conversation. And that makes that by far the most powerful tool in all social media for someone like me.
Ah, very good. Yeah. Yeah. I never thought about, well, I did. We're on social media for what we do. And, SEO, getting found in the sea of other people that you're competing against is one of the most critical things, because you could have great business skills, you can have great photography skills and editing skills, but if nobody can find you, no one knows anything about you, you're not going to go anywhere. So you got to have all of that. Do you ever, since you're shooting, let's say 6 clients or so a year, imagine your down times when you're between shoots, you're doing stuff for your portfolio. Do you ever think of doing things like maybe workshops or something else to fill in some of the time, or as another revenue source?
Yeah, we did a free workshop a few months ago. It worked out great for us. An executive from an ad agency showed up, and we got to be friends with her. So we got something out of it. We did it for free. Honestly, I hate talking in front of people. I'm not an educator, so.
Well, you're doing great tonight. You're doing great tonight. And
I don't feel like it.
No, you're doing great. There's Mike Wren out in chat. He's one of our. We have a wide variety of people who listen to the show, from the beginner to the pro. And Mike is a pro. He shoots, I think, weddings, if I'm not mistaken. And he works for a company on one of his jobs. He works for a company that Photosmith, who does an app for Lightroom. So he's out
on the
there.
iPad. An iPad app for Lightroom.
Right. And he just commented out there, love this guy, total pro. Talking about you, not me.
Oh. Thank you.
All right. So what have you not done yet that you would love to do? What is like the one job you'd love to get that you haven't been able to get yet, or if there's one?
Well, let me back up. Look, we have not done any jobs that I'm really proud of. We haven't got any. Like I said, we've really only been doing this for 2 years. I'd say 2 years ago is when we declared ourselves professional, meaning this is how we're making our living. And we were lucky enough to get clients right off the bat.
Yeah.
But we haven't done any big national campaigns yet. It's coming. I know it's coming. We work very hard at it, so I don't have fear of that. But there are a million companies that we would love to shoot for.
Sure.
The list is endless, so we're just getting started.
Do any, I don't want to say something that's going to hurt your clients later in the future, but do any stick out in your mind? Like, I'd love to shoot for McDonald's, like you had mentioned before, or some kind of ad campaign like that. The proverbial Nike, obviously, would love to shoot for Nike, any of the shoe companies. But honestly, I would love to shoot for AARP. They source a great deal of photography, and it's all really good. They have a great eye, so if they came to me, I would be absolutely honored. Target is another one I would love to shoot for. The Gap is another one. Any of the car companies, I would be happy to shoot for. A whole slew of apparel companies. The list goes on and on. Yeah. Really. All right, another question I had here as I'm looking down my list, because I've gone all over the place, is with the stress of dealing with the client, with the getting the bid, shooting it, doing all that kind of stuff. Do you have any methods that how do you relax? What does Neil do in his downtime? Any hobbies outside of photography? You're a paintballer, a skier, anything Anything like that to help deal with the stress, or does stress not bother you?
No, of course it does. Always stressed. Yeah, no, I don't know where my next paycheck's coming from. So yeah, I'm always.
That sounds stressful.
It's awful. And I worked for 20 years and got a check every week. Yeah. So it's a whole different world to me. And you ask about a hobby. Well, this was the hobby. So no, I don't. I'm not kidding you. It's literally a 18-hour-a-day job, and it's 7 days a week. It does not stop. But it doesn't feel like work because I really enjoy it. I mean, I'm doing it for a reason, and that's that I love creating images. And the entire world is the advertising photography world is fascinating to me, so it doesn't really feel like work. But yeah, no, there is no way to get rid of the stress, that's for sure.
Well, different people have different ways of dealing with it, hobbies or whatever. But you're right. If you're working 18 hours a day, maybe your way of dealing with it is going to bed.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
Because after 18 hours, that's you're pretty wiped out. All right, Tim. As I looked through my questions, did you have something for him?
Hold on. Let me see if there was.
I had one right here, and I missed it.
I reorganized all your questions because I was getting lost.
Okay. Go ahead, Tim.
Well, I guess, do you do a lot of travel with your work? Now, you live out in L.A., so you've come from the East Coast. You're out there. Where are the majority of your photo shoots that you do? I mean, you're doing 6 per year, but where are they located? And I guess that's got to be a big stress level trying to find people then to work for you, because you're hiring all sorts of people, whether it be the workers, the grips, the just everything. I mean, you mentioned a whole list of people. Now, if you go to different locations all the time, that's got to be, I can't even imagine what you're going through with that.
And location was going to be my question, Tim. But go ahead.
Yeah, we haven't been lucky enough to get jobs outside of Southern California. Everything has been here, and we want to travel. It just hasn't happened.
I feel really bad for you being stuck in Southern California, really.
It gets old. I mean, no matter where you are, the scenery gets old. We're dying believe it or not, we're dying to go to the Midwest and shoot people on the prairies. I mean, we're dying to get to an old farmhouse and shoot, a grandmother hanging her laundry. Small town America really appeals to us, and that doesn't exist here. So we haven't found a job that will take us there yet. But
would you ever think about I imagine it'd be expensive, but going out there and shooting some stuff just for portfolio wise and saying, hey, I'm gonna go and spend 2 weeks out here in the Midwest and get those shots you were just talking about.
Yeah, Corey's my partner. He's from Iowa, and he actually just got back from there a couple days ago. So we're talking about doing it there, and we're also planning a trip to Cuba. So.
Oh, interesting.
Other than that, no, we haven't been fortunate enough to go anywhere. It's, a lot of what we do, there's typically some kind of studio component to it, especially if there's a composite. Typically, that happens in our studio. So there's not a lot of reason to travel right now.
Right. No, if you're working 18 hours a day with jobs you found you have right there, then I don't know how you find the time to travel.
Right. Yeah, really.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Where do you see the business going in the next 5 to 10 years? You mentioned a lot of these. There's a lot of clients out there that you can get. You just started to tap the market, but would you see your business growing and having to add another it's just you and your partner, but as your business grows, even hiring on new people, new photographers, and growing the business even further, because at some point you run out of capacity if you're working 18 hours already.
Yeah,
which is a good thing, which is a great thing to have too much business.
Well, working 18 hours, but 16 of those 18 are marketing and planning,
Still working.
Yeah, I guess. I'm not getting paid for it, but yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, it's funny. We would love the opportunity. We've talked about this quite a bit. If we can get to, and we have a year in mind of revenue then after that, we'll bring someone else on to shoot kind of the B accounts and have them shoot it in our style. I'm 45, Corey's 40, so we, in 10 years, no one's going to hire us. So we would love to still have a piece of it and have some creative control and give young photographers the opportunity to get into the business without the upfront cost.
Right. And, I don't know, you probably still could shoot it at that age. There's nothing that says you can't be 50 and shooting it. You may just be a little slower. Or maybe somebody decides, the people who are at the ad agencies are younger, and they say, I don't want to hire this.
That's what it is. A lot of this is, a lot of it is an ad agency wants to hire the hot young photographer. Someone with 1 million likes on Facebook, someone that has a big presence in social media. So at 55, you're not going to be that guy. And
right.
I know that. Can you physically do it? Yeah. But you're also going to get to a point where you don't have anything in common with the 30-year-old creative that's supposed to hire you. There's going to be a disconnect there. So, we're aware of that.
I hadn't thought of that. That is, as I'm getting older too. I'm a little bit older than you, and not in the same industry. I went to school for accounting. So I'm an accountant, and also over the IT section. And photography is a hobby for me. But yeah, the young people coming in. You're right. There's a big difference between the kids I'm hiring out of college today and myself. Even though sometimes I don't feel like I'm that far off.
It's totally different. And I always wonder, well, did my parents and grandparents think the same thing when they met my friends? Yeah, of course they did. It's going to keep going on.
Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Neil, thank you for coming out. We got a few closing things. We're almost at the hour now. We got a few things in closing that I want to talk about. If you have some questions out there in chat before we head out, post them out there, and I will add them at the end. But if you are, the best way to get the show and get it now in HD that we're going to be recording in is to subscribe. You can subscribe through iTunes, through Stitcher Radio, which, Tim, by the way, our Stitcher numbers are exploding. I don't know what's happening there, but
I'll never get that. I really won't.
Yeah, I appreciate all our Stitcher listeners out there, because it is, you're listening to the audio. We played some fabulous photos through this tonight. If you are getting the audio feed, you're not going to see any of those, but you can go to Neil's website where he has more than what I just streamed, and in better quality than what I streamed. Go to Neil's website. We'll have the links for that. You can go out there and see all these images if you listen to the audio. If you listen to the audio, even if you get the video, go out to Neil's website and look up his images, because he has a tremendous amount of them out there that are even better quality. But the best way is to subscribe through one of those processes: the iTunes, Stitcher Radio, even TiVo. If you want to know how to get there even easier, you go to our webpage and then go to subscribe. There's links on how to get to each one of those. It makes it really easy. And you can even subscribe through YouTube. There's a way to subscribe through there. You can't necessarily get it downloaded to your phone, but you can watch it out there. And don't forget to also, where is this at? Join in our forums. We're using the forums for more and more stuff now. The forums are being used now, Tim, for our bi-weekly, our every other week photo challenge, where we're doing editing challenge, I should say, where we're putting up an image that says, "Hey, everybody, go edit this one," and everybody's editing in different ways. Some people are making it black and white, some, all kind of different stuff they're doing. But you get the image off our forums, and then you come and you post it either back in the forums or through Facebook or through one of the other avenues. And it's a way for us to learn from each other on different editing techniques. Going out there and seeing, hey, I like the way Gina Perry did this edit, or I like the way Nikki did this edit, and then they will tell you about what they did to change that. A lot of that activity is happening in our Facebook group, which is just go to Facebook and then look up JPEG to RAW, and all those links are on our website too. And don't forget that to use our Amazon link, jpeg2raw.com/Amazon. And for a while, it was doing okay. And so far this month, we've made 72 cents.
Well, I made a purchase yesterday, but it's not going to add a heck of a lot.
I don't know what's happened. And Neil doesn't know this, but Tim and I, this production here, we do it out of our own money. This is not a money-making business for us. Those funds will be used to do giveaways to our listeners and be put back in the show that way, either through giveaways or through challenges or through contests or whatever else. But
72 cents isn't going to do it.
No, 72 cents is not going to buy as much. So go out there, and if you're going to buy on Amazon, just go to that first, jpaytoraw.com/Amazon, and then go to Amazon, buy whatever you're going to buy. It doesn't have to be photography related. It can be shoes. It can be a phone. It can be whatever you want. It won't add any cost to your purchase, and I won't know who purchased what. Tim said he just bought something. Now I'll know when I go and look, because we had only one other item purchased that is Tim's. But otherwise,
school book for my son.
Yeah. Otherwise, I won't know. So don't worry about that. And if you don't like the forums, there's also a Facebook group. There's also a Google Plus group, and then there's just the website. So any of those ways you can interact with us. Tim and I can both be found at jpaytoraw.com or through email at podcast@jpaytoraw.com. And we're on Twitter, too. We're getting a few more followers there on Twitter, Tim.
Cool.
Just at jpaytoraw, really easy. Neil, how can they what's the best way for people to find you?
KremerJohnson.com.
And we will have that and the other links I have for you out there on our Facebook page, our show notes for this show. We'll have that out there. And until next show, guys, which I think is next week. Yeah, next Tuesday. Until next show, keep it raw. Good night, everybody.